Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Fire Up! Fired up now! Hello, gentlemen.
Hello, Andy.
Hello, lady host.
How are we tonight?
We're good. Thank
We're
you.
good.
I will introduce my panel. We're going to start with Ralph Williams. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Candy. Thank you. It's great to be here.
And the next guest, Mr. George Eichhorn, who really isn't a guest. He's kind of a staple.
Well, but thank you again for the introduction. I appreciate it. Looking forward to tonight's show.
So am I. And then there's none other than my other co-host on our Sunday Fire Up episodes, my other co-host, Smoking Jeremy B.
Howdy, Candy, Ralph, George. Good to be here.
Well, we can't
Great
be
to have you on,
Vegas,
Jeremy.
What's that?
We got the short end of the stick. That says we can't be in Las Vegas, so we might as well be on this show.
Yeah, that's it.
If Las Vegas keeps equaling what I hear it equals, I don't want to be in Las Vegas anyway.
That's true.
Let's put it to you this way, George. You probably have more money in your pocket sitting where you are than in Vegas.
That's very true. Very true.
And you know what they say, you lose your shirt down there too, so you don't want to lose your shirt.
No, not me.
We have a great episode planned tonight. We are going to start with talking about what's happening in Vegas. It's going to happen on Sunday. It's the Super Bowl.
Oh, the Super Bowl.
The Super Bowl. We have two teams in it. Mr. George, who are the two teams in the Super Bowl? Which two teams are it, George?
San Francisco 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs.
There you go.
We are going to break it down kind of by position, who we think has the edge in the game. So we are going to start, Mr. Ralph. Who has the edge at quarterback?
I think it's Patrick Mahomes. He's much more experienced. He's been to the big game, and he has, Andy Reid as his coach. I believe that, Patrick Mahomes.
Okay. George, who has the advantage at running back?
Well, he's a finalist for tonight's award ceremony. His name is Christian McCaffrey, and he has been waiting for this opportunity. Number 23 in your program. I believe that he will have a really good game. I give him the edge. Pacheco's been great, I know, for the Chiefs. He's had a good year also, but just like the quarterback position, I mean, this is really close, but Christian is the leading rusher. I think he's got the edge, and that's going to be a big part of what we're going to see played out on Sunday night at the game, the running game.
Okay. Mr. Jeremy, we're going to go receivers. Who has the edge?
San Francisco had hands down because the Chiefs wide receivers can't catch a cold in Wuhan, China.
Mr. Ralph.
Yes.
Who has the edge at offensive line?
Well, Kansas City's managed to protect Mahomes this year. I mean, their line seems to be pretty decent. So I think Kansas City has a better offensive line.
Okay. George, front seven.
The front seven?
Yep.
I would give it to Kansas City, okay? I mean, you're talking about the tight end position being included. So I think that Travis Kelce is really one of the best tight ends I've seen in my years covering this league. George Kittle, obviously, a great a great tight end also. But I give the offensive line, I'll give you your front seven. I'm going to go with Kansas City again. A lot of experience there. A lot of guys that can do what they have to do is to open up the lanes for running games and do enough blocking for Mahomes. So I'm going to give the edge to Kansas City on that.
Okay. Jeremy, the secondary.
I'm going to give the edge actually to the Chiefs. Um, Ambry Thomas has been like a sieve for passes to go through him. Quarterbacks are rating like an 86 QBR against him and completing passes over 65%. And 65% is the benchmark of a good quarterback, which means it must be the benchmark of a bad cornerback.
Okay. Ralph, special teams.
I think special teams are pretty much evenly matched. They don't set the world on fire, but I'm taking Kansas City in this game, so I'll take their special teams.
Okay. George, coaching.
Well, I first of all got to correct myself. I did not hear you say defensive 7. I apologize. I was talking about offensive line, but let me go back to talk about just briefly the defensive line. I'm going to give the edge to the 49ers. I mean, you got Nick Bosa there leading the charge, and you got a great group of guys. I know Armstead and Hargrave. So I just want to clarify myself and answer the defensive line. I'm going to give that edge to the 49ers. Well, the coaching staff, what do we talk about here? Andy Reid, my God, he's like an institution now. He loves this. He loves the Super Bowl. What is he, 65, 66 years old? And I got to give it to him. I mean, he's got that walrus there mustache, and everybody's making fun of that mustache with that freezing conditions in Buffalo. And he helped lead that team. A lot of people didn't think they even had a chance to get to the Super Bowl because of that playoff road schedule. But I'm going to give the edge to him. Shanahan's a great coach, though, too. No question about it. I mean, it's they're two great coaches, but I'm going to give the experience edge over to Andy Reid.
Okay, so I am going to ask the other two for your thing. I'm going to ask on coaches, total offense, total defense, and then who we think is going to win the game. So, George, you already did coaches. Who do you think offensively has the better team?
Well, that's again a very close one. Based on some of the things I've seen from Brock Purdy, he's not as sharp as Mahomes. Obviously, he's younger. He's got some weapons though with McCaffrey, and I think though that the receiving core in Kansas City, we know that they didn't perform at all very well against the Lions opening week of the season. So, all that being said, I'll just chase here and say offensively, I'm going to say the Chiefs.
Okay. What about defensively?
Defensively, I'm going to go with San Francisco. I think they got better linebackers. They have some really good guys on the defensive line, as I said, with Nick Bosa leading the charge. So I'm going to say defensively, San Francisco is going to be given the edge there.
Okay, so then we're going to go to the next person. Then at the end, we're going to come back around and just see predictions. So let's go to Ralph. Who do you think coaching-wise has...
Oh, no doubt it's Andy Reid. And today, he just hired Eric Bieniemy to be his offensive assistant. So, with that, Andy Reid, it's simple. I mean, he just outsmarted Shanahan right now by bringing in Eric Bieniemy as an offensive assistant for this game. So, there you go, right there. There's the coach. I think it's Andy Reid.
Offense,
I think it's Kansas City. I think it's Kansas City if they can get the run game going, and like Jeremy said before, if the wide receivers can catch the ball, and if Travis Kelce can keep his mind on the game and not on Taylor Swift.
and defense.
Defense, I agree with George. I think the defense of 49ers, very good defense with former Steeler Javon Hargrave there, and they have some good linebackers. And I got to tell you, they have a really good defense. Steve Wilkes is their defensive coordinator down there, and so I think San Francisco defensively.
Okay, smoking Jeremy B. Well, let's start with coaching.
It's the Chiefs.
Offense,
I'm going the opposite way. The O-line is healthy for San Francisco. The weapons are better for Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy's percentage-wise actually had a better percentage than Mahomes this season because the wide receivers have done so terrible. And at times, when Taylor Swift is not in attendance, so has Travis Kelce.
Defense.
I'm giving San Francisco the edge in that too. But coaching beats out talent. We've seen it time and time again.
Okay, so we're going to go around the room. Who's predicting who would win? What's the score? We're going to start with George.
I'm going to go with Kansas City to win this game. It's going to be 31 for the Chiefs and 24 for San Francisco.
Ralph.
24 Kansas City, 24 San Francisco, 21.
Jeremy.
I think both defenses are way too good to let the offenses do that well. Mahomes is good and Kelsey's great. Noah Gray's coming in and Rashid Rice has been better. But as long as Kadarius Stonehand Jabroni is on this team, I see it being a much lower scoring game. I think it's going to be like 17-14, and I give the edge to the Chiefs because of coaching.
And I'm going to go against the grain and say 21-17 San Francisco.
Ooh.
So we'll see which, and what I'm going to say is the team that has the fewest turnovers is going to win this game.
Yeah, I was just going to say that mistakes. Yes.
I think it's mistake.
Yes.
When you get to the championship games like these, your mistakes are magnified because you don't make as many typically. But when you do, they hurt you normally. So I would say defenses are going to rise to the occasion. It'll be interesting to see if the offenses can match the defenses. I think it's going to be more of a defensive battle. And I think I'm going to give the edge to San Francisco. But that's why we play the game, so we can see and we can follow up next week to see how our predictions rang true. So now my next question to this panel is, Chicago has the number 1 pick in the draft. Some people think they should trade it and stay with Justin Fields, and some people think they should keep it and draft a new quarterback and move on from Justin Fields. I'd like everybody's opinion on that. We're going to start with Smokin' Jeremy B.
Well, the GM Ryan Poles has already came out and said they're going to build around Fields. They're not drafting a quarterback. So if they are not going to go Marvin Harrison Jr. number 1, because Joe Alt can be had with the 9th pick with what everybody's picking in between pick 1 and then, they should trade out. Because I think they could get 2 or 3 more picks in this draft and possibly a future first, trading away that 1 pick, which would behoove them and make them in the same position that the Lions were in last season, where they'll be on the cusp of being a playoff team and possibly maybe even making the back end of the playoffs if somebody fails out.
George.
I'm going to have to hand it to Jeremy. I mean, I think that is a good strategy for them. Like you had referred to the Lions and Brad Holmes and the drafting of getting as many draft picks in those first couple of rounds as you can. So I'm going to answer that very similar to what Jeremy says. I mean, I would keep Fields. I would grow him, do what you can to bring him any kind of help, maybe during the off season, as far as a passing coordinator or quarterbacks academy or whatever, that just to try to develop him even a little bit more during the off season. But I agree. I think you've got to stockpile a few extra draft choices. There's a lot of needs that the Bears have, and I don't think going for a quarterback is a smart move in their situation.
Ralph, what do you think?
Well, I agree with George and Jeremy a little bit, but I want to thank the Chicago Bears, by the way, because they, we traded a bum in Chase Claypool, and we were able to get a 2nd-round pick and bring in Joey Porter Jr., who might make Rookie of the Year tonight. So, I want to thank them for that. But I think the Bears should stay faced with Fields, and like George said and Jeremy said, got to build up draft picks here. You got to get some talent in here, younger talent. You got to get some speed. You know, you got to build this team, and the way to build it is with draft picks. You could fill in with some free agents, but you got to build it with draft picks. And I'd get as many as I could with what I have. I just hope they make some better decisions. That's all, as far as that goes.
Okay. I think Chicago would be smart to stay with Fields. I think you can develop him. I really think he's not that bad, but I think you haven't given him the weapons, the talent around him. You haven't given him consistent coaches to help develop him
Yes.
either. And I think all of that plays a part. And so you can't say that he's a bust until you give him all of those things.
I agree.
The next segment, My Town. It's a segment we introduced a couple weeks ago where you can talk about some element, whether it be a sports team or something that's happening in either the town you live in now or your hometown. So let's start with Ralph.
Well, Steelers hired a couple new coaches today. Which they're starting to get with the program here. They're hiring more coaches, and pass game coordinaters. They're hiring a second quarterbacks coach. They really, Art Rooney the second was just had a second interview, and he said that they're committed to Kenny Pickett. So we're going to see what they do here. They're getting him all the coaches he needs. It's just a matter of him understanding the offense and him, and his performance on the field. Question is, who are they going to bring in here to back him up? I suggest Marcus Mariota because he played with Arthur Smith in Tennessee and in Atlanta. He's in Philly right now. I think his contract's up. I don't think he has anything left there. So if so, I'd bring him in as a backup, or Ryan Tannehill, who's familiar with Arthur Smith's offense. All right, and we got to bring a guy in here who can win. All right, Marcus Mariota is one when he backs up, and Ryan Tannehill is one when he backs up. So, I think you got to do that, because if Kenny Pickett has a problem, I hope the Steelers have a plan B. Baseball season's coming up, and the Pirates have done what they normally done, and that's nothing. So
Tell it like it really is. There,
I tell it like it is. I tell it the way I see it.
There you go. Mr. George, what's happening in your town?
Well, my town is the Motor City, Detroit, Michigan.
There you go.
And for those of you that remember, we had a hockey team that did quite well called the Red Wings. Joe Louis Arena was demolished, and within 2 years, they have built a beautiful high-rise with apartment prices and condos going for $3,000 at the top range. It's on the Joe Louis Arena site, right in Detroit's waterfront. Mayor Michael Duggan was there, of course, for the opening ceremony when they cut the ribbon. And he himself was amazed, as many people are, that they got it completed in a 2-year time frame. Everything worked out together as far as the architects go, and the designers, and the utility folks, and everything that you need. But we're not done there, because what they want to do next is they want to build a hotel right alongside it. Because one thing that our convention center in Detroit is missing, now called the Huntington Convention Center, used to be Cobo Hall, as we know. Cobo was the mayor of Detroit. They missed out by not building a hotel connecting to the center. So they're going to think that they were going to do the hotel where the arena was, right next door to this glimmering new shiny apartment tower that they built. So things are looking up in Detroit. There's a whole lot of building projects going on. We used to have a department store called J.L. Hudson, one of the biggest in the country. And of course, that site has been the scene of Dan Gilbert, the owner of the Cavs. Dan Gilbert, a Detroiter. It's taken a long time. They're still building the skyscraper on the site of the old department store in downtown Detroit. That'll be a huge addition. So the city is looking better than a lot of us, especially even me, ever thought it could. It's quite a comeback. And it's not just buildings, okay? It's the people. There's more young people living downtown. They're creating a better entertainment and business district. There's stores, outlets that have moved in and taken over some of the empty storefronts on Woodward Avenue, our main street. So my kudos again and trumpeting Detroit's comeback. And of course, as Jeremy knows, we're preparing for that big day on April, multiple days, not just one, of the NFL draft. So obviously, it's going to be a fantastic time between now and the end of April with the draft coming too. So the town's shaping up pretty good right now. Hats off to all the people that invested money and got these big events to come to Detroit.
Smoking Jeremy B, your town.
Brad Holmes came out at his end of season's pressure, and man, was he spicy. He called out a few of the beat writers that bashed the picks that he made, especially back in 2021. And lo and behold, all those guys that they said were bums and we should have drafted this person and should have drafted that person, the one they didn't question is the one that looks like a bust, and it's due to injury. It's Levi Onwuzurike. That's the one nobody griped about, and yet he's played the least amount of any player out of everybody in that draft, including Jameer Jefferson, who's only played in 3 games. He's actually played more snaps. So that being said, when Carlos Monterez, who he called out directly by name, said, "Oh, we should have drafted a QB instead of Penei Sewell," I hope that guy eats the receipts that Brad Holmes threw at him the rest of his career, because he's been so negative in his writings about the Lions over the years, and including in this regime's tenure.
Oh, my town. We're going to talk about Milwaukee. We're going to talk about that small market. We're going to talk about the Bucks, who just acquired Patrick Beverley, who hopefully helps with their defense, because let's face it, ever since we traded Drew Holiday away, our defense went down to nothing. And that's the reason why we have a new coach. I would also say, for all those Milwaukee Brewer fans out there and that were upset with that Corbin Burns, remember, you're a small market team, so we had to get value for it. Let's remember, sports is a business. We all think of that we're fans and we're fans of a team, but they play the game because it's a business. They play to make money. It's their job. It's the GM's job to make money for the team however they can, whatever that means. If that means trying to be the best team on the field right now or the best in the future to sustain, that's what their job is to do. Whether you like it or not, it's the reality. And if you're a Milwaukee fan, that's because you're a Milwaukee fan. You don't live in New York. You don't have the big pockets of the New York or the medium markets of the New York. Just appreciate what's on the field and the effort that they're giving. And let's hope that they have a good season, because let's face it, the Packers this year, everybody rode them off and said, since Aaron Rodgers left, our MVP, they wouldn't be any good. But look what they did. They made the playoffs. So don't count Milwaukee out just because we're a small market. And those people that are saying that the Doc Rivers hire was bad, I get it. Until they prove you wrong, that's what you got to look forward to. We hired what was what we considered the best candidate out there at the time. Let's let the record see or prove us right or wrong. But most importantly, this weekend is the Super Bowl. Just enjoy it. Enjoy all those high-priced commercials that we used to. It's funny because I was just listening on the radio the other day, and they were talking about commercials, how we never used to see the Super Bowl commercials until the Super Bowl. And now they've seen almost all of them because they've previewed and showed how many of them, which I think is ridiculous because they're paying so much money for those things. Enjoy halftime. Enjoy Enjoy the festivities. Enjoy whatever you plan on doing. But most importantly, just enjoy the game. And I hope it's a really good game. And let's face it, remember, it's a business. Patrick Mahomes made Brock Purdy's salary the first 16 minutes of the regular season. Brock Purdy's whole season paycheck, Patrick Mahomes made in the first 16 minutes. This is a business. We like to watch this business, but it is a business. At the end of the day, just remember that. Well, guys, I've enjoyed this. We're going to go around the room. You can tell people how you can get a hold of you, and we're going to start out with Mr. George.
Well, you can read me in the South Florida Tribune, where you'll find fine writers like Jeremy and Scott and George. And at the end of my column in the South Florida Tribune under Motor City Tribune, there's a little link there. If you're interested in my book, taking a look at it, it's Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air. And it's a nice little book that captures the history of some great voices we've been blessed with. Ernie Harwell, I think of Van Patrick and Ray Lane. I think of George Blaha and Milt Hopwood on the Pistons and Mark Champion. And then we got the Tigers with Ernie Harwell and Paul Carey, Harry Heilman. Oh, my God. Frank Beckman. We've been blessed. George Kell. Great, great Tiger announcers over the years. They're all in that book, by the way. And Scott's in the book, too. Much younger version of Scott, interviewing Muhammad Ali and Jimmy Connors in one picture. So you can find me, too, on numerous shows, this one, and then also 108 Stitches and frequent guest on the Sports Exchange as well, and Pundit's Pundin. Also look forward to seeing you if you want to communicate with me. The best way is Yahoo, gicorn@yahoo.com. I'll respond to any and all requests for information regarding sports. You got any questions or anything, just drop me a line. You can also find me on LinkedIn under my name, and also on Twitter. SandGSports99 is my handle on Twitter.
Okay, Ralph, how can people get a hold of you?
Facebook, YouTube. I have my own YouTube channel, and you can also get a hold of me on ralphwilliams737@gmail.com. I also have a Twitter X account, and also LinkedIn and Tumblr. And also I have my own radio show on Tuesday night on Beaver County Radio, 4 to 6 p.m. with me, Ralph Williams, and Smoking Jim Frazier.
What about tomorrow? You have a show tomorrow, don't you?
Yes, I do. It's called the External Bum Show with Scott Morganroth, JT Toth, who will not be joining us tomorrow, and Leo Haggerty will be our guest tomorrow. And it starts at 10:30 a.m. It's on Blog Talk Radio, 563-999-3740. I also have two other shows on there as well. Wednesday night, 7 p.m., Pittsburgh Sports Talk with me, Ralph Williams, Smoking Jim Frazier. Monday morning, 11 a.m., I do a show called Ralph's Opinion on Blog Talk Radio as well.
Awesome. Thank you. And then Smoking Jeremy B. How can people find you?
Well, of course, on the SouthFloridaTribune.com under the Motor City Tribune heading, underneath the writers such as Scott Morganroth and George Eichhorn. Then you can also find me right here on the SouthFloridaTribune.com channel on YouTube. Anytime you see Fire Up on, you know what? My ugly face is going to be right here. You can also find me on my channel, which is Kneecap Biting with Kneecap Biting with the Motor City Lions. I am Smoking Jeremy B1 on Instagram, Smoking Jeremy B on Twitter, and you can also find me under Jeremy Ballrick on LinkedIn.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, I have to go out there and talk and do a little bragging. Sorry, Jeremy, but Scott's book is kind of on top of your face here, but Scott, my husband, Motor City Madmouth, wrote a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It talks about the changes in media, in sports media, from his career over 40 years. George has got a copy of it as well. George wrote the foreword for it. It's got a lot of interesting pictures, a lot of interesting stories. You can grab it on Amazon or Kindle. If you like this show, this is Fire Up. There's a little red subscribe button. It's probably down by George. and just click it. Like us, share us, tell all your friends about it. If you like listening to podcasts, you can find us on iHeartRadio, Google, Apple, wherever you get your podcast. If you like to listen to specifically just football talk, we have Inside the Pigskin. If you like to talk just baseball, we have 108 Stitches baseball talk. If you like to talk about all of them, because you never know what Scott's Motor City Madmouth is going to talk about, either on Sports Exchange, which is his flagship show on Wednesday nights. He talks about anything from football to cornhole, and I've heard them all. You can also find Pundit's Pundit, where they have interesting topics Thursday nights that precedes this show. Scott has a one-on-one interview show, the Motor City Madmouth. You never know who he's going to interview next. Jeremy and I do a fire-up show normally on Sunday mornings. There's also Professor and Pupil. You never know who you'll find on. Feeling the rare, no limits. There's something for everybody. Let me just tell you. There's just something for everybody. You got to come listen. Watch us, subscribe to us. And if you have ideas and you want to get a hold of any of us, southfloridatribune@gmail.com. But we do have a website, southfloridatribune.com, where I have pictures that I've taken because Scott got me into sports photography. He writes the story, and I take the pictures that complement his stories. So if you've enjoyed this, again, please subscribe and watch all of our contributors, Smokin' Jeremy B., Ralph, and George, on any of their shows or any of the shows that they appear on our channel, because that's what this is all about. We all enjoy talking about sports, and that's why we do this. So again, thank you guys for being on the show tonight. Thank you, Jeremy B., Ralph Williams, and George Eichhorn. Until we see you the next time, enjoy the Super Bowl. Have a great week.